Next up, we are going to talk about creating a listing. So your listing is how customers will find and purchase your product. So this step is incredibly important. It does take some time to get your product shipped into Amazon. So creating your listing is one of the few tasks you can be working on during this time. So let me take you through a 7-step process for setting up a successful listing. Step number 1, do research into what keywords to include in your listing. Keywords are the way that customers find your listing, making this an essential step and definitely not something you should skip over. If you do this well once, you will have a full list of keywords to use for your listing as well as later on for your PPC advertising campaigns. Step number 2, draft your listings title. For your title, it is important that it both flows and is legible, but also that you include as many of the top keywords that are very relevant for your product and also have a high search volume. So the process would be to take high search volume keywords and weave as many of them as you can into the title as possible while still making it readable to a customer. It is good rule thumb for your title as well as the other section of your listing to make sure to use as many of the characters as allowed for your category. Step number 3, draft your listings bullet points. While your title is all about your keywords, the focus of your bullet points should be to inform customers about the top feature of your product. You do also want to include the rest of your highly used relevant keywords. Again, use as many characters as you are allowed to. Different categories have different character limits, so make sure to find out exactly what that is for your product. If you are not sure what to write about, check the following sections of your competitors' listings to get some inspiration. You can check out their features section, you can check their bullet points, the questions section, and the review section. A few additional tips for your bullet points. Put the main keywords right at the start, then put them in all caps. Offer a money back guarantee. Amazon always gives this to their customers anyway, so you may as well use this to your advantage. If there are any complaints on your competitors' listing that your product overcomes, then make sure to include this in your listing. Remember, you can always go back and edit this, so don't stress too much. Step number 4, draft your listings description. Like the other components of your listing, this can be drafted within Listing Builder. This section is less likely to be read by your customers, but use it to include additional keywords. Talk about your company or anything else about your product that you want your customers to know. If your brand registered, you can actually replace this section with what is known as A+ content. This allows you to add more images and text that highlight what makes your product stand out. You can find this in Seller Central under Advertising A+ Content Manager. When you are creating this, make sure to see how it will look on mobile, as A+ content will actually show first before your bullet points on a mobile device. Amazon has different templates you can utilize here also. Step number 5, purchase the UPC barcode for your product. Now, in order to create your listing in Seller Central, Amazon requires you to have something called a UPC barcode. This is the barcode that you essentially see on all packaging. UPC barcodes can be purchased directly from GS1, which is the agency that manages this. This can also technically be purchased from third-party sellers at a cheaper rate. However, this is against Amazon's terms of service, so I would advise against this. You are required to have one UPC barcode per product or per product variation that you are selling. Now, people often get confused between this UPC barcode and the FNSKU barcode and which one to print or stick onto their packaging. So to clarify, you only need the UPC barcode in order to create your listing. Once you have created your listing, you only then need your FNSKU barcode on the product itself. You no longer need the UPC barcode at this point. On to step number 6, which is get images for your listing. Images are incredibly important for your product, so it is important to do this step as best as you can. You essentially have two options. Either you take the images yourself or you hire a professional who is familiar with Amazon's image requirements. These are some of Amazon's requirements. Your main image needs to be against a plain white background without any props or watermarks. 85% of the image has to be taken up by your product. It must only show the product for sale with few or no props and no logos, watermarks or inset images. It can only contain text that is part of the product. If you would like your image to be zoomable, then it will need to be at least 1000 by 500 pixels. I would highly recommend this, as we have seen zoomable images tend to help conversion. You are usually able to upload 7 to 9 pictures, and I would recommend having as many as you are allowed. Once a customer is on your listing, your goal changes a little bit. You now want to convert them to buying, and your pictures can play a huge role in that. You want your picture to clear up any confusion that they might have, as well as allow them to picture how life would be better if they had your product. One way of doing this is including lifestyle photos. These are images that show your product being used by your customers, giving the customer a way to put themselves in the model's shoes. These hit on their emotions. They are a little bit harder to get but are definitely worthwhile. Additional visual elements that you can include on your listing are infographics. This is any additional design work on your photos that highlights the main benefits of your product. You can do something like a competitive matrix showing the dimensions, arrows that highlight the main benefits, or anything else that calls out the benefits and what sets your product apart. For this, keep in mind that many customers will be browsing on mobile devices, so keep your designs simple and clear. If you are brand registered, you can also include videos in photo section. Step number 7. Create your listing in Seller Central. Now that you have prepared all the elements of your listing, it should be a simple process to actually create your listing in Seller Central. To start, click on Catalog, Add Product. The next step is to select the category to list your product in. Scroll down to search and search for your type of product. You will want to choose a category that is most appropriate for your product. On this next page, under Product ID is where you want to put in your UPC barcode. Under product name, put in the title you created. Under brand name, put in your brand name. If you are selling FBA, manufacturer will be the same as your brand name, or really whatever you want it to be, as you are the manufacturer. On this next page is where you set up any variations that you might have, whether that be size, color, etc. The seller SKU is something that you can just make up, but I would recommend doing this as you will reference this quite a lot in the future, so you have the chance to make it something that is easy to identify. Under the fulfillment channel, select FBA. Now it is time to upload your images, but keep in mind you can change this at any point. In order to put in your additional information such as your bullet points and descriptions, you will have to select advanced view. You can do this now or you can come back at a later point. Here you will see a lot of additional fields pop up. You will definitely want to fill in your bullet points, description, dimensions and weight. Depending on the category you are selling in, you may have some additional fields to fill in. If you are ever unsure about what a particular field is asking, then just hover over the question mark and Amazon will give you additional information. Under keywords, fill these out. These are your backend keywords. It is little hard to know exactly how these are used for ranking, but it is worth filling them out. Once you click save changes, your list will now show up in Seller Central. You can go back and edit this at any time. Keep in mind that your listing won't be active or public on Amazon.com until you have sent in inventory. So it is okay if you haven't completely finished your listing and you want to do some more work on it, as long as it is finalized before you actually start selling. Now it is time to successfully launch your product.